So I know that we've been talking a little bit during this pandemic, but have you been in contact with any of like your friends or outside family members that you maybe don't live with?
Yeah, so I talk to my friends all the time. I have two main friend groups who I talk to, and I'm good friends with all of them within both friend groups, and they're friends with each other as well. But they've been the main people who I talk to. So it's just been my friends, my girlfriend, my family, and that's about the only people I've talked to for like the last month. I mean, that hasn't really changed too much because usually that's like my support system anyway, but it's just weird not being able to see everybody like whenever you want, because obviously the pandemic is stopping us from doing that. But outside of the pandemic, if I wanted to see my friend Nick, I would be able to go see him tonight if I wanted to. But with these unique circumstances, I can't. But I will say that I also have the privilege of, it sounds funny, but the privilege of video games because you get to hear everyone's voice and you don't have to I feel like sometimes if you like FaceTime or call someone the entire time you're focusing on like the calling aspect. Like I don't know, it sounds stupid, but if you're on the phone with someone, I feel like that's always in the back of your mind that you're on the phone with them. And I feel like if you're playing video games with someone, you're almost like immersed in something else, and it feels like normal life. It doesn't feel as much like technology. It feels like you're doing something, and they're also there doing it with you. So yeah, that's fun too.
Yeah, so it just gives a little bit more normalcy.
It makes it feel 3D.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, outside of video games and talking on the phone or texting, have you been able to see anyone really in person other than me, obviously, because you're here in this interview?
Yeah, so I have seen you. I've seen a few members of my family, and I've seen two of my friends. And I was lucky enough to be able to hang out with them, but while obviously taking into account social distancing and everything. But it's definitely not the same. But it was good to be able to have an outlet at least a little bit to have some fun. I went up to New Hampshire with two of my friends, and we stayed at his house for a few days. But outside of that, not very much action going on. So yeah.
Now, did you have any hesitations when you decided to go to New Hampshire during the pandemic, or?
I definitely had hesitations. A lot of it has been just what I see around me as is forcing me to be hesitant with these things. Obviously, a small part of me, as most other people, is just worried about getting sick, and you don't want to get sick. So that's where the taking precautions comes into hand, staying a reasonable length away from distance away from everybody, covering your mouth if you're near someone and you're talking, masks, hand sanitizer, all of the above. But other than that, I think that the corona situation is, I don't know, it's teaching me more a little bit about like picking my battles when it comes to what I would need to do and what I want to do. Like for instance, 2 weeks ago, my friends wanted to go to New Hampshire like twice in 1 week, and I said, like, it's not worth it for me to keep leaving the house right now because all we're going to be doing is the same thing. Obviously, I went once, but that was, I don't know, that was just me deciding that I was going to go one time. But yeah, I just think that the coronavirus situation is a little bit tricky and that there's a lot of differing opinions about the severity and the solution. So yeah.
What are your thoughts on the severity of the situation?
Um, Obviously, I think coronavirus is real, and I think it's a threat to everybody who can come in contact with it, even if you're asymptomatic, because that just means there's even more of a chance you're going to pass it on to someone you know or love. So I definitely think the threat is real, but I also know that the economy is hurting. I know that we need to get minimum wage workers back working because there's a lot of them out of work. I know that small business owners can't take this much longer because it's stretching their limits as much as possible. Some of them are firing on all cylinders if they're monopolizing good. So something, I don't know. A bad example of it would be a bakery. A bakery would be struggling right now because they're probably shut down or they can't get enough business to keep running. But it's definitely a scary situation because no matter how soon or how late we come out of this, this pandemic crisis, there's going to be a lot of loose ends to tie up, and there's going to be a lot of struggle with the economy, and that's going to be nationwide. So I think that I personally think that it's time for people to start exploring ways to get daily life and our society kind of back on track and kind of, fully functional, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned like workers and things. Do you have a job?
Right now, I do not have it. Well, I work for um, a landscaping company. I only work during the summer, so I'm starting up at the end of May again for the summer. But as of right now, I do not have a job now.
What's the landscaping company that you will work for?
I work at Young and Sons Landscaping Company, and we're based out of Middleton, Massachusetts. And I mean, we just do, all of the basic landscaping things plus patio, all of those sprinklers, irrigation, waterfalls, all of that. And I would say that the coronavirus is definitely not affecting landscaping like it's affecting a lot of other industries because it's such a isolating type of work. I mean, you see it yourself. The landscapers are kind of in their own world. They're cutting lawns, moving along, parking on the street, not talking to anyone. I mean, so I don't think that the coronavirus has affected landscaping as much, which is good because there's a lot of people in that line of business. So yeah.
So you say it's not really affecting it. When you go back to work, do you think that you'll have to wear masks, and will you be more cautious about like taking your gloves off and where you're putting them afterwards? Like, do you think there's anything that's really gonna affect you too much?
It's definitely going to change the way we have to work, but for me personally, I don't think it's going to cause too much change. So the owner of the landscaping company I work for, who's actually my uncle, he has like instituted a policy with all of his workers where if they go up to a door, they need to ring the doorbell, step to the bottom of the stair. They need to ring the doorbell, wipe the doorbell down with a wipe, stand at the bottom of the step with a mask on, and wait for the homeowner to come out as a courtesy to the people living there, because even if they don't believe you need to take all those precautions,